Hi everybody, welcome to the installation video of the Tango 200 engine. We'll jump right into it and try to get you started with your engine installation as quick as possible. Okay, here we have the completed engine already installed with everything mounted back into its original position. And as you can see, it fits in just perfectly. Now I'm going to show you the details of your kit so I can show you how to put these units together. Okay, first in the kit is a seal for your water valve. Originally, this is the part that came with it. You're going to take that out and you're going to replace it with this. This is to seal up your water line. This originally ran into the carburetor, into the bottom of the carburetor to heat the carburetor. But since we don't need heated carburation, we're going to block this with this. Okay, secondly is this little gadget that came along with it, which is a double-ended hose plug, and you're going to install it into the original. You're going to take and drill a hole in through the side using I believe this was a 5/16 bit, which will make a very nice tight hole for it to slide into. Before you slide it in, be sure all the way along the edge of this part to use a very good heavy-duty industrial strength adhesive contact. I use a product called Goop in several versions of it, and it seals it up nicely so that you can add the carburation, the CV, the vacuum line, back into it, which goes back over to your fuel reservoir switch, which needs to be reinstalled from the old engine. This was moved from this location under here, under the engine, back up to here. So that's where I would recommend you mount yours as well. Third in your kit was a piece of all-thread rod that's kind of bent funky. This little funky rod is going to go into this position on your shift lever. You'll need to remove these ends from both and reuse them. If you adjust this properly, when you push down on this, you will get an even push without bending this. If for some reason it doesn't seem like it wants to fit into the groove, just loosen your nuts and slightly turn it around, and it will allow you to put it into the exact right position. Okay, fourthly in your kit is a piece of L-frame iron that's been welded into a nice little frame mount. It does not include holes for mounting right here. It should include a hole here for mounting to the frame. This is going to be installed under your breather box. Your breather box has a mount that was originally designed to mount up in the front, but we're going to relocate it back to accommodate using the RTM carburetor and the RTM airbox. Some people have experienced a lot of sticking in the needle float valve from this piece of rubber. For some reason, when the air reacts with it, it sends out a black sludge that collects in the carburetor needle and makes the throttle impossible to turn. And you have to take it apart if it's stuck and pull your needle valve out to make sure that it is not stuck. I would recommend replacing it, this piece of hose that originally came with it, as I've done here, with another piece of hose. Just go to your local parts store and see if they've got one, but it's your choice. You can either take it apart or you can just replace it. Okay, now your bracket is going to mount underneath your air box. It's actually going to connect and is going to run back alongside onto the frame. And I'm sorry, this is not a very good picture to see it, but that's as good as I can get on short notice. Not much of a filmmaker. Okay, also included in your kit was an extended front muffler mount and the front motor mount assembly that has been modified. Now, it's very important that you keep this flat bar mounted to this front frame. If you have to relocate the bolt in order to do that, that is fine. Mine was moved about 2.5–3 inches over from its original place, and it has to be because of the way that the muffler now attaches into it. If you have not checked, double check and make sure that your front sprocket is lined up with your rear sprocket. They should match up almost perfectly. Okay, now into the wiring. We use the original rectifier from the RTM, which we modified a connector for, which is very simple to do. On your connector, you have 3 yellow wires and 3 colored wires. I'm sorry, 2 colored wires on this one. Black and red, very simple to match up. On the other side, you've got green and red, which would be your ground and your positive. And on the other side, you got 3 yellows, which easily match up. So just match up some plugs. I use that product goop to seal it up because it makes a perfect mount inside of it. It's almost as hard as plastic is, so it's good for it. Secondly, your main mount that originally came on your, so into the charging wire that charges up your system, you've got 3 wires, 2 blacks and 1 blue. We changed ours around a little bit color code wise, but it doesn't really matter how you do it as long as you're connecting those wires into the black, white, and blue side of this wire. Black and white are both the blacks, in case you can't see that very well. And that works just fine. Again, use the goop sealant inside of here after you're done, and it makes a plug that allows you to plug it back and forth into without the wires coming apart. You're also going to take your temperature wire, going to connect it to your plug in the top. And you can replace that connector, or you can bend it whichever way you like. Don't forget to plug this wiring harness back in, and you're going to change around your grounding spot for your wires, which should go right here. It should fit just perfectly. I also took off the front cover of the old RTM, which was a screen, and I reused that because the screen at least helps a little bit to keep things out. And we also have to reuse the CDI module that came along with the RTM unit, which is completely fine. And it will mount up with the original wiring harness that Raul decided to make some kind of proprietary thing. So just use that one, it works just fine anyway. Once everything is all located in, it should fit in there snugly. And located right here, everything should be tied in with your original bolts. So once that you get the unit all together, you should be able to fire it right up. Okay, step number 1 is to remove the air box. You'll need to remove the wiring harnesses that are located below here, the carburetor. You need to do that. Get a deinstallation of the RTM 190cc engine. First you need to remove the air box, remove the carburetor, remove the engine, remove the front piece of the muffler. Leave everything else intact, and we'll come back to it in just a second once all of these pieces have been removed. Okay, so here's the engine with everything taken away, muffler removed, all hoses connecting to it, fuel system, all the plugs going to it, all disconnected, and the engine is now able to be moved out of the unit. But first, we need to remove the rear swing arm. Due to those bolts located on the upper spring, we'll have to take the rear swing arm off in order to get to the engine bracket that you'll need to replace. Okay, so the next step is going to be to remove the existing motor mount that attaches to the bottom of the motor. And we're going to do this by first taking the engine out, then getting to this mount via the front ones. If you're lucky enough to have a lift, you're in luck because you need to do it by removing these bolts, this bolt which will allow this part of the engine to drop, and then you're going to undo this bolt which will allow this piece of the engine to undrop. Okay, once you got the engine out, set it to the side and start unpacking your new engine. Do not throw away any parts. Just set them to the side and I'll go through each one of them that we need. Once you get your new Adley engine out, you should notice that there's a package that came along with it. Enclosed in it is a new CDI, which we will not be using, a cover for the CVT drive, which we will not be using. Then we have a new coil, which we will be using, and the regulator that goes with it, and most importantly, your seal valve for the muffler. Do not throw that away because that is necessary. Also included is the Adley's version of carburetor, but since it's not a CV type carburetor, we're not going to use it. We're actually going to substitute it for the RTM version. Here are the little pieces that were included in your kit. This is a mounting for your breather box. You'll need to mount this where the original bolt goes. You'll need to drill a hole somewhere around in this area depending on how your breather box sits in. You have a piece of all thread that goes on your gear shift. We have this little doohickey, which is going to be modification for our carburetor. And we also have this smaller gadget, which is a block dead nut for the water valve. In this process, we're going to take the carburetor that originally came with RTM and we're going to modify it with this piece. What we're going to do is we're going to drill a hole into the side of this intake for the RTM